So thank you so much for being here today and talking about accessibility. We had a chance to practice a little bit of yoga together at the retreat last summer. And I'm always curious to know how folks make yoga more accessible for themselves. What's kind of been your experience with yoga and, in the past and currently with your practice?
I have always loved yoga. My mom used to do yoga. I remember doing yoga with my mom when I was like a young kid. I have fond thoughts of being able to do like back bends and things like that back when I was young, back when I was young. But it's been something that I've like returned to at different times throughout my life. And it's been an interesting journey, like in a fat body. What are the things that make it more accessible? Some things have been like specific classes like geared towards fat bodies, fat yoga instructors, using props and tools to be able to move my body. And also, I did have a chance at one point to have like, it was supposed to be like a regular yoga class, but I was like the only person that showed up. So it was kind of like I had like a couple of weeks of like basically like one-on-one, which was really nice to help me sort of learn how to work with my body.
Right. And when you go like out looking for a space that you want to practice in, what are the things that you look for to make sure that that's a space that can actually meet your body's needs?
It's tricky. Sometimes I have to I think sometimes I have to choose. Like for me, particularly like with yoga, my big things, first of all, is a yoga instructor, fat or larger bodied, and is the yoga class, like for larger bodies. But sometimes that means that like I have to just go to whatever studio has that. So I don't always have, like I have to choose sometimes between what's more accessible. And then the other piece too for me about like, so there's that, but something that would make yoga more accessible to me in a space would be like knowing that bodies like mine are welcome there. And bodies like mine mean like fat bodies. It can mean like, black bodies. And the only way that I could really know that is if I see other people there or other pictures of instructors or pictures in the studio. So those are some important things. It's nice to not have yoga studios that are up a flight of stairs. I can go up and down stairs. That's accessible to me, but it's not always comfortable.
Right. And if you were like, go to tell a yoga instructor one thing that they should be conscious of when they're going to have fat bodies or different bodies, disabled bodies in their space, what would be one thing that you would want them to know or to think about?
I think right now, after practicing a lot of yoga like at home, I realized that yoga studios are way too small. Like the majority of studios are just such a small space that there's not actually enough space for like my body on the floor. The mats sometimes are so close together. So if I were to talk to like a yoga instructor and say these are some things that would make it more accessible, would be like really like, you have to go for a bigger studio. Like you need to have more space and less bodies in the space rather than these tiny spaces with like as many bodies as it can hold.
Right, and room to move. Right, and I also even find like spread out and like I sometimes feel that when I come to my mat and I've got like my bolster, my blocks, like, it's a lot of stuff.
Yeah, me too. I have like so much stuff. So there needs to be space to move and space for me to move my things and get my blanket and my things. Yeah, there's like a whole array of things around me for yoga.
Right. And I'm curious if there's like folks out there who are in bigger bodies and who are being like, I don't know if this is something I even want to try or if it is for me. What would you want them to know?
My experience of yoga is it is like one place where I feel like I can have like a lot of autonomy in my body. It's just me. I get to focus, like even if there's other people around, what's happening in my practice is between me, myself, and my body. And in that space, I have the opportunity to like really like learn about myself and validate myself, even if it's like, oh, like I can't do that thing today because that thing hurts. That's still an opportunity that I get where I've like acknowledged and seen something about my body that I wouldn't otherwise. And also I get to learn where my body is strong or where I have some extra flexibility. So it's one of the ways that I feel like it's one of the coping strategies I have for existing in a fat body is being able to have this like one-on-one time with myself and just really be present with my body. So please try it, if nothing else. It's a really beautiful healing, helpful thing for me.
Yeah, I feel like there's so much hyper focus, especially in the West, on like the physicality of yoga, opposed to it being about our relationship with ourselves, whether on a physical level, a mental level, an emotional level, a spiritual level. And you know, for me, that's like the thing that brings me back to the mat over and over again, is this chance to slow everything down and be like, okay, Kendra, what's actually going on? And to meet myself where I'm at that day, rather than, you know, is moving at full speed ahead and I hadn't noticed, oh, my shoulders are sore today. Or maybe I pulled something earlier today and I've just been pushing through. Now that I've slowed down, my body's like, listen, you know?
Yeah, and it's always like, I was thinking before I came here today that it is that day. And it doesn't matter what I did yesterday or what I did 2 weeks ago or what I think I want to do in the future. It really is, the practice for me is like about what's going on this particular day. And all the information is there in this moment, in this day. And like, for example, I was thinking about that question about like, it's this, you know, a lot of time there's this external pressure for physicality or to achieve a thing. You know, let's say today I'm trying to do like, you know, explore like a shape that like, well, it's a little bit hard. It's difficult to do. In that moment, in that day, I can be like, this is a little hard for me today. And I have a choice. Like maybe if I wanted to be not hard another time, you know, maybe I'll do this a little bit more. But it's in that moment, I get to learn that information. It's not like I should be able to. You know, because maybe another day I do that same shape and it's easy.
For sure. I even notice sometimes the time of day I practice. Like, if I practice first thing in the morning, I'm just so stiff. I'm like, ugh. But I practice at like 3 p.m. in the afternoon and my body's had a chance to loosen up because I've moved throughout the day. And so sometimes it's not even like this day, it's like in this actual moment, at this hour, my body is doing this and this is available to me. And at a different time, it may not be. And to not carry that over practice to practice, because how I'm able to be in my body at any given time is dependent on all the other circumstances of my life.
Totally. I mean, yeah, and even like, not even just, you know, what's available to me in this moment, but even like, what does my body need at this moment? Okay, right now we're waking up. So we're just gonna wake up, and maybe it's like, oh, like it's been a long day and now it's time to stretch it out. Like, but it's just nice to, I mean, and to me, that's sort of what I was talking about before, where it's like, it's really nice to have those moment to moment times of being with my body and to be able to speak to my needs and answer myself with movements. And yeah, and I think like the other piece I want to say is that there's so much baggage as a fat person moving in a fat body that a practice like this just really allows me to kind of like really push some of that aside and just really be with me and kind of, I am my own, like I am my own default, if that makes sense. There's no other default but my default in those moments. So that's like, yeah, it's important.
I was hoping that we get a chance to do a little bit of movement together today and for you to show folks like what works for your body, because I feel like that just doesn't, we don't always get to see that. Yeah. At least when I, you know, look up yoga on YouTube or wherever it is, I often don't see bodies that are the same color as me or the same shapes as me, or that move like me. They're often people who are younger and thinner and generally white. And so I think it's important for folks to know that it's okay for yoga to look different in different bodies. How do you feel about that?
That sounds great.
Okay, amazing, let's do that. So we're gonna do a couple poses, maybe like a triangle shape today, and then you can show me what that looks like for you. Yeah. So for me, I would normally like take my hands out and take my feet a bit wider and then come down. What might that look like for you?
Let me grab this here. So I think like the thing that's interesting is that like it's going to be different it's different for me every day, which is why I think like everyone should use props, because our bodies are all different every day. Right. So for me, yeah, I would probably use this in this way, come down, and then I can use that.
Right. And then begin to bring the arm up.
Yeah, and then if I feel like I have a little bit more depth, I just flip that block a little bit.
Right.
And then I can do that.
Is there any other way that you like to use the blocks?
Yeah, I'll show you like sometimes when in my practice, if I do like a forward fold with like what I call a half lift. Right. So if I come forward for the forward fold, a lot of times like the prompt is to like put your hand on your shin, your thighs or your shins. Right. But I have my tummy's kind of in the way, so I can't really. I don't have a lot of space, and I don't have space between my tummy and my thighs. Right. Right. So I can use those blocks so that I can have a nice straight spine. Right. Give me a little bit of extra room to do that. and then come forward for my fold.
And then you can allow your arms to kind of just hang as
Yep.
much as you want, and then also to get back up.
Yeah, they help. They help me get back up. A little bit of an extra boost.
Yeah. Beautiful, thank you.
I also use them, I think maybe like, I don't know, I would use them in like a low lunge situation sometimes. Sometimes they help for like a little bit of extra stability.
Right.
If I were to, like sometimes I can use them like this if I want to
Right.
add myself a little bit, like give myself a little bit of extra space.
Right, and you're still able to get that feeling here in the front of the leg.
Yeah. Sometimes there's, if I need to go back, this kind of pose. It's basically my hands like don't quite
Extended.
reach the ground. So it just helps me have like a little bit of longer hands.
Right, awesome. Are there any other props or things that you will use in your practice?
Yeah, I'll show a strap. So the other thing that's just like my body, I can't like really, I'll turn around. It's really hard for me to reach.
Right.
I hear sometimes clasp your elbows. My hands don't really come together at all. So if I have a strap handy, I can then just use that.
Right.
To do anything where hand clasping is required. Which
And
is
you
not
want to kind of
accessible
open
to
the
me.
chest up.
Yeah.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah, and I can also like, I can take that wider if I need to, or if I'm feeling a little bit more flexible.
And the nice thing about the strap is you can kind of inch your hands in, whereas I find like when I kind of lock my hands in behind or I end up like gripping and like, I don't know, just really holding, and it's harder to find kind of my edge
Yeah.
in that, whereas like the strap, it's kind of easy to slide in and out from behind the back.
Yeah, I think it's really helpful because like I like I explained before, it's like I feel like it's a moment to moment experience, so it just gives me some flexibility to sort of figure out what I need or what my body's able to do at that moment.
Right. Now, what about when you're down on the mat, like when you're not in standing postures, like for example, Shavasana?
Yeah, I can show you.
Okay, so I have a few different shapes. I've got a cylinder bolster. I have a rectangular bolster, and then I have a smaller bolster, and they call these the Prana bolsters. What kind would you normally use for your
I
body?
normally use this one, but I wouldn't mind trying that one to see what that's like.
Okay, yeah, let's do it. I'm gonna set this one aside. Now, when you go into Shavasana, what does that normally look like for you?
So typically, so there's a couple of choices. I think in my usual practice, like I do Shavasana like differently depending on, but if I like depending on how I feel at that particular time. But one thing that I sometimes like to do is I like to put this like right against my, it's helpful if I have a handle, like right against the small of my back, and then I would lay back.
Right. And that kind of allows the chest to just open up.
Yeah.
And
sometimes like my hands don't always totally touch the ground, so that's where I might bring in my blocks so that my hands have a place to touch, a place to sort of touch down on, so they don't have to just dangle.
right. Because that would be uncomfortable to just kind of have your hands an inch or two off the ground. Yeah, it's kind of hard to relax.
Yeah. So this is like a different bolster than I usually use, so this is, I'm sort of feeling this right now.
Yeah.
Another thing sometimes I do, if this feels like it's a little too intense, I'm really big with like building structures with my props. So
Yeah.
I might do, can I try the
Yeah,
flat
of course.
one? I might actually put a block under the top of it so that it's raised a bit. So I have a slight incline.
And then you kind of get that against the small of your back.
Yep, gotta scoot back a little bit more. Yeah, and then that's like slightly less intense. This
Right.
actually is feeling like at this particular moment. I don't have an extra block, but
But again, you'd use those
yeah, I
to
would
put
use,
on your hands.
yeah, and usually I would have like a pillow or something, so I put whatever I need to under my hands or under my arms. This is feeling really good right now. I like the slight incline.
Right. It just allows the whole body to just really decompress here.
Yeah.
So you wanted to show me one more?
Yeah, something else with the strap is like I really like I can't reach my legs really very easily. So if I use a strap, I can use this to do like if I want to put my knees into my chest, which is not really an accessible or available thing to me. And I can use that strap to like if I want to roll
Round the spine
or
out.
Round the spine out. I would also use this for something like like a happy baby, where it's not that accessible for me to reach my feet. Anything like that, I would use the strap for.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think that's it. Oh, one other thing. The last thing, which maybe I'll show you while I'm sitting. I did see on YouTube, and I've been playing with it, this possibility of having the strap around the chest to stop or to help out with boob crunch or whatever, like when your chest comes up into your face.
I like to call it the breast suffocation.
Yeah, the breast suffocation. Yeah, and so I would use this like in a forward fold or something like that, just to help, like for me when I lean forward, usually like everything kind of comes up into my face. So I've been playing with it. I'm not sure how like easy it is to use, but I've been trying it out a little bit because I thought it was neat, and it does seem to help a little bit. One of the things that is like I find really helpful with instructors is if there's like a willingness and a comfort in talking about bodies. Like for example, like saying things like, yeah, like so if we're, before you go into a forward fold, like, different bodies are shaped differently. You could like open your legs a little bit wider to make space for your stomach, or feel free to go ahead and lift your stomach and like put it down and then lean over. I think like it's been really helpful and liberating for me to know that I could, like I can move my body out of the way if I want to do something. Like my body is like it's pliable and flexible, and that's the thing that's welcome. So it's nice to have like an instructor like say that out loud. I think it just really makes a certain kind of space for me to know like, yeah, my body is welcome here, and like that it sort of validates the autonomy that I have to like, touch and, manipulate my body or engage in the practice in a way that works for me.
Right. It sounds really affirming that, you come into a space and people are like, you're allowed to have a body, and there's no expectation of what your body is supposed to be in that particular space.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing all of your thoughts and your wisdom and showing us how you practice yoga and what works for your body. As I started this project, it was, you're one of the first people that I thought of for this project, because I know we've had conversations around accessibility and what it is to practice yoga in a fat body and having to move your tummy and things like that out of the way. And so I was just thrilled when you said that you would help out with this project. And I know we haven't, been able to do it right away because of COVID, and we had to kind of push things back and reschedule. But I'm really grateful that you were able to come up today and to share.
You're very welcome, and I'm grateful that you're doing this. I hope that lots of people see it, instructors, and also folks that maybe have been like nervous or hesitant to try like a body kind of practice. I think, I hope that I just hope it helps people like connect in that way, because it's been really meaningful and powerful for me.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Athena.
Thank you.